All right, everyone. On my end, I've got 4 o'clock. So I'll just slowly start beginning the session. Welcome to our second curriculum conversations held by the Museum and Galleries Educators Network National. This week, this time, we're going to be focusing on art. My name is Brianne Fallon. I'm the president of the network, and we have our entire committee on the call as well. I'll just get them to give a wave. We've got Hermione Higgins and Sarah Vanderwau, who are both from the Eureka Centre, and we have Erin, who is here from the National Trust as well. And we are joined by a wonderful panel of speakers this afternoon. But before we go any further, I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we are all located and pay my respect to elders both past and present. For me, here at the Melbourne Holocaust Museum, that's the Boonwurrung people of the Eastern Kulin Nation. And if you are comfortable, please feel free to type into the chat the name of the traditional custodians of the land on which you are located so that we can name all those different custodians in this call. So this afternoon, as I said, we have a wonderful panel of speakers, and we're going to have a short introduction to each of them, and then they'll give us an overview of their work and what they've been working on. And then after that, we will open up to questions from the audience. So we're going to start without further ado with our first speaker, who is Kate Ryan. And Kate is the curator of children's programs at the National Gallery of Victoria, where she plays a key role in developing and curating education and creative programs for young audiences. With a background in art history, fine arts, and education, she is passionate about making art accessible and engaging for children, fostering their creativity and cultural awareness. Kate has worked on various exhibitions, workshops, publications, and initiatives aimed at enriching children's interactions with visual art, promoting their creative expression and supporting the integration of art into their lives. Her role at the NGV emphasises the importance of art in children's development, encouraging exploration and learning through hands-on experience and engaging with art in a fun and meaningful way. Welcome, Kate. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi everyone, and thank you, Bree, for that overview. Yeah, it's exciting to be here and talk to fellow people who are experts and enjoy engaging children with education and learning, and of course in the arts too. And I look forward to my fellow panel discussion members and hearing what they've all been working on too. Yeah, so thank you. Oh, you're just on.
I believe you had some slides to share if you wanted to pop those up and take it away.
Started? Okay, let's go. Okay, so this is really, hi everyone, an overview of what we've been doing here at NGV. But just to kind of set the scene, you know, I thought we'd go back to the beginning where, you know, as many of you would understand that in the late 90s, you know, art galleries were really focusing on the audience and beginning to take notice of the visitor and the visitor experience. And, you know, many galleries across the world were experiencing a little bit of a crisis, because if you weren't one of those major institutions such as the Met or the Tate or the Louvre, art galleries weren't really attracting the visitor attendance that they needed. And, you know, there was the real threat of galleries closing. And I suppose there was a bias or a view that galleries were places where they didn't feel welcome, and that art galleries were for the few. So here at NGV, our initiative has been for some time, has been to transform and to create experiences where everybody is feeling welcoming, you know, a real mainstream audience to the NGV. And, you know, that is reflected in everything that we do, and our children's focus, you know, that's in my area, has really helped change that impression. So in my area, you know, I work in a team and we cover children's exhibitions and programs. We also create programming and events for teenagers, and we have an outreach program for across the state of Victoria. And then we also work with community and access. So, you know, this is really a credit to executive management's vision for building audiences. And, you know, these days we do attract numbers in the millions. So I think what's key to that is that we're very collaborative. And I think internally, when we're, you know, and I'm going to talk to you about our children's exhibitions, we take a real collaborative approach, and a little bit like this circular diagram, round the table discussion, where we have representation from exhibition design, graphic design, the customer service team who welcome all the families, exhibition management and multimedia to develop these large-scale exhibitions for children and families. So, you know, on the ground floor here at NGV, and we have a dedicated children's gallery, which kicked off in 2013 with a major exhibition called Melbourne Now. And that was really about connecting with the arts community back in 2013. And since then, we present 2 large-scale exhibitions for children every year. And we also have Summer Festival and a Kids on Tour program, which I'll talk to you about. So in terms of our attendance, you know, we like to count the children, you know, they do count. And we welcome, you know, close to 300,000 children last year with a 2.35 million attendance of adults. And that translates to about 11% of the total audience. And then if we also include the family members coming with them, we represent in our children's programming 25% of the total audience. So, you know, they're coming in their numbers, and with our surveys, we're noticing that they will visit. Perhaps it's a first-time visit, but many will visit 4 times a year. So the children's exhibitions are critical with that. And I suppose that as you know, kind of the backbone of everything that we all do in our children's and family programming is recognizing that children have the right to play and enjoy cultural experiences. And we're here located in the heart of the city. You know, it's important for families and children to know that they're welcome at the gallery and that there's something for them in this space. And of course, we have our partners and fellow colleagues at other institutions that are supporting this as well, such as ArtPlay. Yeah, so this dedicated space really does send a message to children and families that they're welcome, and that in this space, we do host the 2 exhibitions per year, and this biannual presentation encourages that return visit, and 70% of children have visited the NGV more than once in the year. 30% mentioned that it was their child's first visit. So as we know, everyone grows up and life goes on. We're really conscious too that our children's exhibitions are not play centres, that we are in our gallery, and we do have this opportunity to curate exhibitions and develop these exhibitions in collaboration with artists and designers and other creatives. So to do this, we conduct research, and, you know, at the core of my job is conducting that research and turning those artists' ideas into activities and interactives. And with that, we also test our activities with groups of children. So co-designing is a part of what we do, and we observe how they interact. We have, you know, take on board their comments, and that then in turn informs the development of the activities. And, you know, we're really aware that children, they don't have the filter of being polite at all times. So we do this to make sure that they really are passionate about what they're doing and engage with what they are doing. And they're fierce little critics. And we, so we don't shy back from that feedback. We want it to be a success, especially with the investment that goes into developing the exhibitions. So each exhibition is designed, an exhibition design, and creating, you know, rich immersive experiences is at the heart of what we do. We know that that's stimulating for children. And, you know, recent research with brain development says that, you know, rich immersive experiences and dynamic spaces really do have an impact on the development of the brain and keeping up with neuroplasticity. So that's interesting as well. We, turn the artist's ideas into interactive games. We create touchscreen art interactives, multimedia interactives, and, as part of all of this, panoramic screenings. And, the multimedia elements do play a key role in making the learning fun. We're serious about making learning fun and keeping it playful. And then we also see that after this, positive and welcoming experience with these children's exhibitions, our surveys show that children are then ready to explore the rest of the gallery and discover the gallery for what it is and learn about the current exhibitions that are on show. And so a number have pointed out that the benefits of visiting these children's exhibitions, such as you'll see in the bottom corner there, Ancient Egypt for Kids, that coincided with the major exhibition about the pharaoh. And they let us know that their children were able to visit the children's exhibition, have this introductory learning experience, and then when they're attending Pharaoh, they are able to engage with the content there, pointing out, the symbols of the pharaohs, etc., who the gods were, and, being even, I would say, first level attempts at learning some of the hieroglyphs. So that's exciting for us. So with that as well, we're really proud that these exhibitions have attracted some of the world's leading contemporary artists who have collaborated with us over the years. And currently, we've just concluded with our Yayoi Kusama exhibition, which brought in over 170,000 children in a 4-month period. And then currently now we have plans for the planet with Swiss artist based up in he has this idyllic life living in the mountains outside of New York City in the Catskill Mountains. And that was all of this current exhibition, Plans for the Planet, gives children the opportunity to share their messages about the environment. There's some working with the Hermannsburg potters as well, where they created these incredible pots representing the AFL teams. Of course, all Victorians are passionate about AFL, as is the rest of Australia. So it was really bringing a sports community, the First Nations community, and the arts community together. So that was a really wonderful exhibition to work on. And we worked with Ai Weiwei on a wonderful exhibition which shared his love of cats with Andy Warhol, and both of them had mini cats. It was quite fascinating to learn that. And you can see there Ai Weiwei playing Clever Cats, where we created multimedia interactives that took children to his studio as well. And, the Fiona Hall, who's one of Australia's leading contemporary artists, she represented Australia with the 56th Venice Biennale. She created not just a children's exhibition, but one for teens, learning that we engage teens as well. And then more recently, in 2020, just before COVID, Brian Donnelly, otherwise known as Cause, created a whole immersive space called Playtime. And then we've also worked with Julian Opie and fashion designers Victor and Rolf. And then alongside that, we also publish for children, and we generally publish 2 art books for children full of activities twice a year. So they can coincide with the major exhibitions. So these are just some of the fronts of those books. And we're very excited that we've received awards. And if you have the opportunity to create children's books, art books are they're quite few, especially in the museum sector. So we urge you to get on board. And we've just got our latest children's book with Olive Bruni, My Nature Book. And with our latest children's exhibition, we're creating reading environments where children can, settle into these little reading nooks and take the time to view the artist's work in that cozy atmosphere. And then with our children's festival, so a bit to cover, and I don't want to take everyone's time. We host this in the summer, which was generally a quiet period. It's now one of our busiest periods. And we noticed there that that's a welcoming time where we can bring, say, close to 25% of our children as first-time visitors to the gallery. And then coinciding with that, across the state of Victoria, we offer Kids on Tour, which means that children can take part in what the big city has to offer at their local venue. And we've really grown this attendance to be, you know, from early days, we had, say, 9 to 12 venues involved, and now we're heading close to 160 venues. That's what we'll do this year. And that includes regional council libraries all taking part, all with these drop-by workshops and activities, and they can engage, you know, their local artists to participate as well. So that's kind of building, you know, and strengthening the cohesion, social cohesion in these venues, because all of these activities and these fun experiences are about building the audience, not just for the venue, but also building that engagement. Yeah, so that just shows the growth over the past decade with our Kids on Tour program, making sure that all Victorians can participate in the arts. And then, of course, we know that children don't stay children forever and they grow up to be teens. And we are really tackling this audience over the past, it's actually 10 years now, where we create, you know, we understand that children come to the gallery, you know, from an education point of view with their school visits, and that's very important. We have a fantastic Learn team, and it's lovely to see Gina who led the Learn team some years ago. And now we also host art parties for teenagers. That's a social event in the evening. And we've had 8 years of our teen council. So teen council is an opportunity for us to keep connected with teenagers, know what they're interested in, keep the programming dynamic and relevant to that audience. They tell us they want the engagement to be fun, they want adventure, but they also want information about future careers. They want skill development for their folios as well. So we offer that to them through holiday programs and also with drop-by activities. And then, so this is all. I'll just turn the music down, but this shows you the teams participating in art parties, and we've had more than 19,000 young people take part. And we've got another one coming up, so we welcome more teams to come and enjoy that. Night out, which is a little bit like our Friday night experience. And then we also partner with wonderful collaborators such as Minus Out 18, the Midsummer team and Butter team, who then, you know, can create, you know, we make sure that we're looking after LGBTIQ audiences as well and engaging them with the arts and creating social experiences for them. I'm nearly finished. And then we've had some success internationally with presenting our teen initiatives and children's initiatives across the globe. And what we're really interested in, many of the artists give their artwork to the NGV, their exhibition, and we'd really like to share that with our international audiences. So coming up, we're expanding our international audiences, but we're also conscious too that we'll have a third site and we wish to continue the engagement with the arts. We'll have a children's gallery there and we'll have 3 sites to work with. So that's the work will continue. And, you know, we look forward to working on the next steps to make that all exciting and creative for our young audiences and critical for, you know, and keep the audience front of mind for everyone participating. So that's it from me, and thank you, Bree, for having me, and I'll hand over to you now and I'll stop sharing my slides. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Kate. I have so many questions about particularly that teen segment because how you managed to get that many teenagers in that room is quite remarkable. So we'll probably pick that up at question time. But I'm going to hand over to Alex Morris. Alex brings her enthusiasm and people skills to her role as education programs lead at the Maitland Regional Art Gallery in New South Wales. For those of you who have not been there, definitely worth making the trip next time you're heading to Sydney or Newcastle. Alex and the team there work together to deliver fun and educational events and programs to students of all ages across the Hunter region. Recent accomplishments she's proud of include activating the gallery for their Youth Week live night with high school bands and hosting the experimental 8 to Create event, an all-day, all mediums challenge that brought a wide range of local artists together to create works inspired by the Maitland Regional Art Gallery exhibition. Alex, over to you.
All right. Can you guys hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right, excellent. I just swapped between my phone went out and then suddenly my camera was working on my computer. So fingers crossed I can make it through the next 10 minutes. Thank you guys so much for having Maitland Regional Art Gallery on your panel. We're very excited to be here, tuning in from Wanneroo country. And I really liked your reference, Kate, that quote, I wrote it down. You said, we're serious about making learning fun. And that really resonates with me when I'm giving self-guided tours of the gallery. One of the first things I say, we go over the rules with the kids. We say, no running, no touching, inside voices. And then, of course, the most important rule of all is to have fun. We are a smaller gallery, a regional gallery, so not quite as big as some of you guys, but I'd love to talk to you about some of the different things that we've been doing since I started. I started just over a year ago, so I'm still pretty fresh. One thing I do want to mention is Education Mondays. So we are closed to the gallery. The gallery is closed to the public on the Mondays, open exclusively to school groups. So this is pretty special. This means that if you've got different students with different requirements and needs, we can work exclusively with them without worrying about the visitors. It's also, we have 2 workshop spaces, so we will sometimes do self-guided tours. We'll sometimes do workshops we've got classically trained artists as tutors that are working with these kids, which is really lovely. That is something that I feel like is a little bit of a point of difference that allows us to work specifically with different schools and education groups and their needs. So that happens every Monday all the time. Education Mondays, teachers can get in touch with us and we just ask them what the requirements are, and then we set up a tour, we set up a workshop based on our exhibitions. Mentioning the curriculum, I guess we've got a lot of talented people here. So Cheryl, our collections coordinator, I can or not coordinator, but our collections curator, I can say to her, oh, we've got some students that want to learn about First Nations art. I say we've got some students that want to know about photography, and she can talk with me and we can work with the teachers and make sure we've got something that is perfectly suited to what they're, and it doesn't have to be just art students either. Like we had a Twitter exhibition last year all about birds. So that was really great. We actually worked with Mick Roderick from BirdLife Australia and did the Aussie bird count to coincide with that. So there's a lot of different ways that we try to be creative and reach out to educate and engage the community. I did want to talk about Youth Week Live as well. So that happened the first Friday of Youth Week. I believe it was April 11th. And we were very excited. I think we had about 350 people in our little gallery. It was packed to the brim. I think we worked with 2 local high schools and their music teachers to bring some musicians, some of them who had never performed before in their life. We got Scion, which is a local kind of audio company, to work with them as well, because I know nothing about that. So that was really good. So we brought in Scion, and we brought in all these different, we had some local bands that had kind of performed before, but a lot of them were first-time performers, and the local schools kind of advertised that we were doing this. It was completely free to the public, so it was very multi-generational. We had lots of young people, but we also had lots of grandparents seeing their kids perform for the first time. And we have an exhibition on, at the time it was called Singing in Harmony, and it was the perfect place to have, and these beautiful colors from Virginia Cuppage and Christopher Capperson. the artwork was the backdrop, and it was just a really special thing to see all these, and the kids were dancing. There was an interesting watermelon performance at the end of the evening where one of the students ate a watermelon on the lawn and everyone watched. I didn't know that was going to happen, but it added to the ambiance. But it was that was a really special thing that happened back in April that just it was so nice to have so many different residents involved. We did have some grant funding for that to make that happen, to pay for Scion and also to pay for about $1,000 worth of free pizza, which definitely needed to happen, I think, for all the hungry teenagers that went like that as well. I couldn't believe how fast it went, but it was just I was very happy at the way that event went, and I hope that we can do it again next year. I'd like to ideally incorporate more schools. We approached a lot of different schools. Some schools said yes, we'd like to do it. Some schools pulled out last minute, so it was kind of and then we found another band that was keen, that kind of wasn't planned to be on the roster, but they were really keen, so we brought them in, and then they brought the watermelon performance. So anyway, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And, so I thought I'd mention that. And then I also wanted to talk about the 8 to Create event, which was in ages 16 and up. It wasn't I think it overall is an idea that people do in general. We didn't really follow a specific method, but then I started looking it up and realized that the phrase 8 to Create does exist. It wasn't just AMaGA's original idea. It has happened in other places, but our version of this challenge is we invited artists to register in advance. We had up to 36 artists, youngest age 16, oldest, I think she described herself as a sprightly 83-year-old. And we also encouraged all mediums as well. So it didn't just have to be visual art. We had musicians, we had a dancer, we had theater makers, we had poets, and we worked with our exhibitions team as well. So the premise was, you're going to arrive to the gallery at 9 a.m. on a Saturday morning, and you are not going to know which exhibition you have to create a response to until that morning. And you have to bring all your supplies. It was very low budget. We do a lot of low budget things at AMaGA as much as we can. I'm sure you all understand that. So you have to bring your own supplies. You don't know what's going to happen until you get there on the day. We did supply like instant coffee and tea. You have to bring your own lunch. And then we opened up that evening from 6 p.m. We invited the public to come in and see what everyone had made. So all these artists arrived with their equipment, and our exhibitions team, it worked quite well because we had that singing and harmony exhibition hadn't officially opened, but the artwork was up. And then we had another space that was going to be KDB Plummer's Margaret and the Grey Mare exhibition, but it wasn't ready yet. So we just had this place where people could draw on the walls because they were going to get painted over anyway. So we brought in, and it was quite spacious, and we also let them use the workshop spaces as well. So yeah, we had all these different artists in the gallery all day. We told them they didn't have to stay. We told them if they wanted to, they could go home and come back and present at 6. But it was really special how that they all wanted to be in the same space together. And they're all kind of in the Hunter region, which is lovely as well. So I think a lot of friends were made that day. It was just so interesting. We had music kind of playing overhead, and a lot of the musicians, they were wearing headphones, but we did have a cello player that night actually play his own music. I think he went away and came back. But it just created such a magical spirit of creativity. It created a feeling of getting to know each other. So I guess halfway through the day, also there's pressure, and you need sometimes a little bit of pressure is just what you need to really create a sense of urgency. And like maybe at 1 p.m., everyone's starting to think, oh, we've only got a few hours left. So like, but everyone's kind of looking around, like, and we've got one woman is crocheting and another woman's making collages, and this gentleman in the back is doing something with his computer and tech, and I don't even know exactly how to describe it, but it looks amazing. And we've got the dancer like around the corner. So we just had all these different people getting to know each other, and it was interesting because we kind of closed it off from the public, but the public was really curious, and the public was really keen to check out what was going on. And then at 5 o'clock PM, myself and my colleagues had a real challenge because we had 1 hour to figure out how we were going to display this to the public. So, so thank goodness we had a lot of staff on board. Like I had colleagues like hammering artworks onto like on ladders, on nails. I'm trying to figure out the best way to get this microphone to work and where we're going to have the dance performance. And people were, it was wonderful, exciting, fantastic chaos, and the public loved it as well. And since then, it was kind of an experimental thing, and I was new to the gallery, and I felt like my colleagues were kind of like, "Oh, we're going to trust you on this, Alex." I don't know, but it went really well, and we're going to do it again next year. And the great thing about it is, you know, you can use any type of inspiration. So I'm hoping maybe we can use something actually from the collection. The Singing in Harmony wasn't from the collection, so hope when we might, you don't even have to use an entire exhibition. You can just use one piece of art and tell people to go with it. And since then, a lot of those local artists have come back to other events. And as I said, it was just really, we also, we were able to get an Auslan interpreter, and we had one deaf artist who did a performance piece, and I read her words that evening. There was just a lot of different wonderful ways that we kind of expressed ourselves. And I feel particularly passionate about that one because it was so kind of zany, but it ended up working out so well. How much time do I have, Bree? I'm just kind of running
just
my
a few
mouth.
more minutes.
Okay, all right. Well, I won't. Okay, sorry. So anyway, Aid to Create, and if you'd like to see Youth Week Live or Aid to Create, you can check out AMaGA's Instagram, and you can see we try to do a lot of snippets and reels and stuff like that. So yeah, that was just a really fun, creative thing that we did. And then another really special thing that we have is we have a partnership with the University of Newcastle right down the road, and we work together to bring in 4 established artists with very high presence. I guess high. I don't want to. They're very respected, and they come to the Maitland Town Hall, and then they'll come across the they come to Maitland Town Hall and give a talk for roughly all 4 of them talk for 20 to 30 minutes, and we bring in high school students to watch them. And as well as watching these talks from these established artists, the students, after watching these talks, will come across the road and do some workshops with our art tutors at the art gallery. So it's a great way to connect, I guess, the gallery to established artists, to also showing how workshops are connected to I guess your future careers. So yeah, we've done it now twice, and we're now in conversation with the University of Newcastle for our 3rd one. We also work with art lecturers and interns with the University of Newcastle. Last year we had a great variety of speakers, several of whom were exhibiting or had recently exhibited at AMaGA. So that was really great. We also had Luke Sales, who's and we had a lot of different mediums as well. We had a woman named Jillian Dean, who's she does hand lettering, but she also was on MasterChef and is also a budding chef. So I really liked how we could connect all these different mediums together to perform, or not perform, but to speak, and then to introduce them to, I think we had nearly 300 students that day, and ideally we hope to get at least 350 this year. But I feel like I could just talk and talk and talk, and I'm going to stop now.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Alex. It sounds like you're doing some amazing things at the Maitland Regional Gallery, and it's interesting, both you and Kate talked about that idea of kind of different audiences and audiences with different needs, so we might pick that up in question time. But I'm going to introduce, we have 2 wonderful speakers from the Duldig Gallery. I'm going to start by introducing Melinda. Melinda Mockridge is an educator, art historian, and heritage consultant. She is a member of the Professional Historians of Australia and an associate of Australia ICOMOS. Since 2013, Melinda has designed and co-curated exhibitions at the Duldig Studio Museum, including Art Behind the Wire and Slava Modern Art and Design, and drawn from the collection, as well as researching and writing tours and interpretive materials for the museum. She was Education and Public Programs Coordinator there until 2019. She's also edited and contributed to the Duldig Studio publication, Slava Horowitz, Duldig, Modernist Art and Design. She is a Curatorial and Research Associate of the Duldig Studio Museum. Melinda is currently working as an advisor and significance assessor of museum and archival collections and undertaking a significance assessment of the Robert Boyd Foundation Archive at Walsh Street in Melbourne. She has recently written curriculum materials for history and Holocaust education using the collections of the Duldig Studio. Melinda, I am over to you. I believe you have some slides as well.
I do, yes, thank you,
Wonderful.
Bree. I'll just see how we go sharing them. Okay, and here we are. And here we are, great. Can everyone see that? Oh, okay, need to go back.
Oh, lovely.
Actually, I should go back to, sorry about that, but I should go back to the first slide. Seemed to have disappeared. Okay. The first slide, which you saw briefly, was the front of the outside of the Duldig Studio Museum and Sculpture Garden, which is a house museum in Melbourne. And I'm afraid us at the House Museum, we don't have watermelon performances or free pizza. Unfortunately, we have a slightly different focus. But we do have some extraordinary things in this House Museum, which I'm showing you right now. This is actually the artist studio in the Sculpture Garden at the back of the house. So as Bree's just outlined, I have a background in art history and also cultural heritage studies, basically. And I've been at that studio for quite a few years now. And so first of all, I'll talk about the studio and what it is, the museum, because you may not be very familiar with it at all. It is quite a small museum. And then I'll talk about the curriculum materials which I developed recently for history. So this is History Year 9-10, the Victorian curriculum, and where we have used the artwork and the archives that are at the museum to teach history, and specifically about the Holocaust, through the experience of this one family, this one artistic family, and the art that they created. So to this degree, the lessons are possibly unusual and perhaps even unique, I think, this combination of history and art. So the museum was once the home of sculptor Karl Duldig and painter Slava Horowitz Duldig, who were Jewish modernist artists who fled Vienna in 1938 following the Anschluss, that is the annexation of Austria by Nazi Germany. And they made the journey via Switzerland and Singapore to Australia. Ironically, they arrived here in 1940, sent from Singapore as enemy aliens and interned for 18 months in country Victoria. Their daughter Eva was born in 1938, a month before the Anschluss, and she founded the museum in 1996. So as I said before, this is the artist studio built by Karl in the Sculpture Garden. So I just think this is a wonderful shot because it gives you some sense of the riches which we have at the studio of modernist art. So you see marble and clay sculptures saved during the Second World War, and they were saved by hiding them, in fact, some of these sculptures, in the basement of an apartment owned by Slava's sister in Paris, in the middle of Paris. They stayed there for the duration of the Second World War. There's plasters that were made in Singapore, and also, and you can see quite clearly at the front here, Karl Duldig's Moses. The first bronze cast of this sculpture is actually in the collection of the National Gallery of Victoria. Many of the other works there are in a variety of materials, such as ceramics, and not just materials, but kinds of works, such as ceramics, from later in Karl's career when he was in Australia. And then there is the family rooms in the house, and I'm trying to move it on and it's not going. Here we are. So this is one of the rooms in the house, and Gina will explain a little bit more about what's in the house when I finish. But in this room, you can see more of the things that were saved. The furniture designed by Slava herself, and a number of the artworks and other possessions saved by the family during the war, as well as later works that were actually done in either Singapore or in Australia. The collection holds about roughly 10,000 items, and that includes archival material. And so you can, in these archival items and in the artworks, you can see stories which have been assessed, or the artworks themselves have been assessed as of national significance for their ability to tell the refugee and migration story that's been shared by so many of us here in Australia. Okay, so when it was suggested to me that we could develop some educational materials for teaching history, which centred around the Duldig family's Holocaust experience, I knew that we could tell that story by using the art and the rich archives we have there. The 2 lessons we've developed are based also on the mandated areas to be covered when teaching the Holocaust, identified in a Victorian curriculum document that was set out in 2020, Teaching the Holocaust, a guide for teachers of history years 9-10. The relevant historical knowledge we identified to focus on was significant events, that's obviously the Anschluss in Austria and its consequences, and the diverse experiences and perspectives of Jewish and non-Jewish peoples of the Holocaust. And also the different interpretations and debates about the significance and legacies of the world wars. So 2 lessons that we developed. The first one, and clearly it's very easy to tell the story of what life was like before the war from the material that's at the studio. So we have extraordinary photographs and other documentation about their life in Vienna prior to the war. And the second lesson we developed was based on Karl's memorial sculptures. So there are a few around Melbourne and also overseas that he created on commission, and also I thought to have a look at the studio or present the studio as actually an act of memorialisation itself. In addition to that, I wanted to reference the concepts of character strengths from positive psychology, and this is an idea that was used at the Melbourne Holocaust Museum when they developed their framework of how to approach the teaching of the Holocaust, and also very importantly, the concepts of bystanders and upstanders, which you probably are all familiar with, and identifying upstanders in the Duldig story. So I'll just quickly go through some of the materials and how they relate. And as you can see, obviously, this is the sitting room again. And if you look closely, this is one page of a trail, which we give to students. You can see a photograph there, which actually shows Slava seated in those very chairs taken in 1931, very proudly, just after she'd got them from the manufacturers, the works that she designed. Okay, so in the lessons, students are introduced to the studios and then allowed to look at the rooms, and we have trained invigilators to support them as they go around and discover what they need to know, with guiding questions, obviously, and an opportunity to look very closely at the artworks and practice reading them for what they can tell us about our history. That's one slide. Here's the sculpture garden, and as you can see, the trail there references some earlier works by Karl. So the one with a standing female figure, is one that he did in Vienna, which has now been lost, and another one which is a sculpture in terracotta, which he did in Singapore when they were living there for about 18 months prior to being sent to Australia. So the material that's available enriches their understanding of what they're seeing of the art in front of them. And I'll just show you one of the more history-focused documents. So this is History Skills, which is obviously looking at documents and analysing them, and working out what type of document they are and what use they may be, and how one can draw historical information from those documents. But it also introduces the idea of there were people who were significant figures in the Duldig family story who helped the Duldigs either by helping them save all this extraordinary family furniture and artworks, or else actually help them escape from Vienna and make their way around the world. So this particular one is a Swiss official who actually assisted Karl and Slava get visas, and that's a sculpture that Karl did. Again, we don't have that sculpture anymore. He left it in Switzerland, presumably. He did it and gave it to Speck. We actually are still in contact with the family. Okay, and the last slide, almost last slide, is just another close-up of one of the other memorials that Karl was involved in creating, which is now in the Melbourne General Cemetery. It's called the Carlton War Memorial, or the Holocaust Memorial, which is a bronze bas relief, which I think is quite a powerful image. So we'll give students documents and articles around that relate to this particular monument for them to analyse and understand. And last image is just to give you a sense, I suppose. I get very enthusiastic about all the incredible riches that are at the studio, and as you can see, the sculpture on the left was actually exhibited at the NGV in the Vienna exhibition a few years ago, and a painting of Slava's mother by Slava, which we've had conserved recently, and of course a document right in the centre, which is I won't go into the great deals of it, but it is a very pithy and relevant document, as you might see if you can read some of the writing on it. And that's the end. That's me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Melinda.
That's okay.
Also from Duldig, we have Gina Panebianco, who is an art educator with 30 years experience in research, development, delivery and evaluation of learning programs, education resources and audience engagement. She currently is a member of the Board of Management at Duldig Studio Museum and Sculpture Garden and convener of the Audience Programming Reference Group. She is the former Head of Education and Programs at the National Gallery of Victoria and has held a diversity of roles in the visual arts and lifelong learning, including Education Advisor for Dialogue in the Dark, Melbourne and Museo Italiano Melbourne, Education State Arts Assessor for the Victorian Curriculum and Assessment Authority, Visual Arts Educator at La Trobe University, Resident Lecturer at Incinerator Gallery, Co-Curator Top Arts NGV, and Guest Educator in Museum and Galleries in Singapore, Taiwan, USA and Japan. All right, our final speaker before we open up to questions, over to you. I believe you have some slides as well.
Yes, I do. Thank you very much, Bree, and thank you for inviting us to speak today. And we started with the incredible presentation from Kate. And Kate, we're absolutely in awe of everything that you do. And it's an amazing achievement that the NGV has reached over all of these years, and it's a great institution. And thanks also to Alexandra. I mean, great enthusiasm, and it must be absolutely really rewarding in terms of the programs that you do there. Now, I'm hoping that you can all hear me. And
we can definitely hear you, and I can see all of your slides at the moment. So,
yes, so I'm just going to go to the beginning of the slideshow so that you can see it all. So thanks to everyone, and we started with this huge approach through the NGV, and we're really scaling right down. And I remember when, and I've been involved with the Duldig Studio probably going back many decades, because the NGV initiated the annual sculpture lecture on Karl Duldig in commemoration of his great contribution to Australian art. And that's how I first got to know Eva, the daughter of the artist, and the work that they do. And that's how I met Melinda there. And so it's an interesting contrast too. And we do deal with the curriculum in a very specific way. And I'll just talk very briefly about how we work with the foundation years to year 10. And then I thought I'd just hone in on our VCE programs. So as I said, it's going from this big approach down to a very specific approach with the curriculum. So for levels F to 10, we have classes and workshops that respond to the visual arts strands, which are exploring, developing practices, creating and presenting. And the classes comprise of a facilitated viewing for students with the facilitator who is not so much guiding and giving a body of knowledge, but is actually engaged in inquiry-based questions, open-ended questions, to try and get the students to really think about what they're looking at and what they can articulate and talk about and be engaged with. The photo here is of one of the workshops in process, and Stefan Damschke is one of the students of Carl Duldig. And so this is quite, again, bespoke and unique in that he is passing on the materials, processes and techniques of the artist in the collection. And this is for young people working with clay and hopefully for the benefit of future generations. Then I said we were going to talk about the VCE program. And for the last 8 years, we've been working with Monash University Museum of Art, particularly in the area of art making and exhibiting, which is one of the two subjects or study designs at the year 12 level, year 11 and 12 level. And this study design introduces students to the methods used to make artworks and how artworks are presented and exhibited. Our galleries are both listed in the Victorian Curriculum and Assessment Authority's list of recommended exhibitions and also for artwork displays and collections that support teaching of content related to the study of exhibitions, artworks and artists. The program is called MADE, which is Monash and Duldig Experience, and you can see the image of Milma down the bottom there. And they are full day programs because we're within walking distance of each other. It's just a 20-minute trek up Burke Road. Students either come on foot or by bus, and they spend a half a day in each venue. And in doing so, they really get the opportunity to compare and contrast the museum practice and operations of a contemporary art gallery and that of a small historical house museum and community gallery. We have 4 spaces which we have to rotate the students through. Unlike many of your organisations, we are a very small domestic house environment and we can't accommodate large numbers, but we can accommodate a group of 30 or 40 at a time by rotating them through these 4 areas. So there are the heritage rooms that Melinda spoke about, which the house was built in 1922. And it houses the collection from Vienna with the furniture from the 30s. And then it is in the state of how the artists lived in it back in the 50s through to the 1980s. We have the artist studio that was built by Carl Duldig in 1962, which would have been state of the art at the time with its wall of windows facing south onto the garden. The gallery extension there that you see in the far right-hand side, which Eva, their daughter, added onto the building back in 1996 for changing exhibitions and to host public programs, and the sculpture garden, which not only has a resource for students, but is where we have touch tours for people with vision impairment and also our outdoor activities, events and functions. We have a great opportunity to work with how to organise, plan and design thematic exhibitions. So we only have the one exhibition on at a time, and that can be on for quite a number of months, often up to a year or more. And in this particular area, we have the chance to really introduce the curator's intent, the group curation approach, the display methods, wall colour, font, floor plan, list of works on display, the programs and marketing that are associated with it. Through these particular classes, the students also have the opportunity to meet key people working in a gallery and museum, such as the collection manager, the curator, the Curatorial Research Associate, myself as an educator, also as a volunteer, and our guides and invigilators. The MAID teachers often also request for a focus on conservation specifically. And here we've got our warrior, which is a major sculpture on the front veranda, but was also on display in various locations such as the St Kilda Road Gardens and also down at McClellan Gallery. They will ask specifically for information about conservation practices such as lighting, temperature control, security, and also display methods that help to protect the work. But we also have the opportunity to showcase 4 major conservation case studies in painting, metal sculpture such as this one, drawing, and also another area of work being furniture. So this is often really a great way for the students to engage with the conservation practices. After the students have been to the gallery, they have the opportunity, like all of us, to go to the website where there are videos and recordings of conservation examples. And prior to them coming to the museum, we always send student notes on behind the scenes. We talk with the teacher to know what studio practice their students are engaged in so that we can tailor the program to those students' areas of interest and studio practice. And then during the visit, of course, it reinforces all of that that they're requiring. Plus, we're also available after their visit to give them more information on specific works. So the evaluations that we do to make sure that we maintain relevance to the curriculum and to the school's needs, and every school is different and every student is different. So managing all those learning styles is also a great challenge for us. But the fact that we do get this sort of feedback really confirms for us that, you know, we are a museum that is able and capable to develop and provide student programs that address the curriculum in the visual arts. They are intentionally tailored to meet the school curriculum. It is bespoke. We have our constraints, both in our student size, but also the focus of the collection. But the constraints are also our product and our asset. And it's about the fact that we are so small and intimate and a domestic house setting, but with a remarkably big story about displacement, resilience, hope, and survival through art that is relevant to the curriculum, not only in the visual arts, but in history, and also that resonates with young people today, particularly if they've come from other locations and countries. So Melinda and I thank you for the opportunity today, and we hope that you do visit us sometime soon. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of our speakers from such different organisations, all doing amazing things, but there's wonderful threads tying you all together. We only have a few more minutes left, so if anyone has some burning questions, feel free to pop them in the chat and we can direct them to any of our speakers. If anybody would like to ask a question, feel free to type it in now. While we're potentially waiting for some of those questions, I thought it was interesting, this idea, all of you mentioned sort of those different, visited with different needs. Gina, just at the end there. Alex, you mentioned it as well as you did, Kate. Is that something that you've all, I might start with you, Kate, and we'll go to Alex and then to Duldig. Is that something that was called for by your audience, or something that, you know, was just part of your best practice approach?
Sorry, I'm trying to type. I just loved Gina and Melinda's presentation as well as yours, Alexandra, but just you're down the road. I didn't know you were there, and I'm booking my visit. I see you're open on a Sunday, every second Sunday, so that's what a lovely thing to experience. Sorry, Bree, what was the question?
You said that you mentioned sort of other audiences. You mentioned LGBTIQ+. Is that something that was called for by your audiences, or something that you've led as part of your best practice?
Oh yeah, yeah, very good question. And I think it's really informed by the Teen Council. you know, of course, and, you know, we engage with the Midsummer program, and we have a wonderful partnership with -18, and we host their event. Yeah, so I think Teen Council just keep us very engaged, and of course, you know, so that's how that comes about in terms of staying relevant. And, you know, with Gina mentioning, you know, the touch tours and audio description, you know, meeting, you know, those, you know, audience is just such a big word to me, and there are just so many audiences within audience engagement. So how do we, you know, sincerely and respectfully engage with our audiences is something that's front of mind with what we do here, you know, knowing that we're, you know, and you've all mentioned it, we're a big institution, you know, so we are reaching, you know, huge numbers, which is fantastic, but then also making sure that within that we're staying connected with so many different members of our communities.
Okay. Very, very quickly, 30 seconds from the other people. Alex.
I feel like that's really a question for our deputy director, but I feel like when it comes to education, you should be thinking about that at all times. It's just common sense to try to be as accessible as possible. For me, I feel like it's almost a given, you know.
Yeah, wonderful. And Duldig, for either feel free to answer.
What I can say is that we've got an audience programming reference group where since about it's 2020, and we're really trying hard to, you know, take into account audiences and their interests, but not only from our perspective to, as Kate has also mentioned, and Alexandra, that we co-develop with people as to what they want. And I think that's the way to go for any museum and galleries, to listen to their audiences.
Well, we are out of time. I just wanted to thank all of you so much for sharing your work with us. You're doing phenomenal work with young people, whether it's schools or outside of school. And I think, as you all pointed out, how important that is for, you know, the future of social cohesion and where we're going as a nation. So thank you all so much for your work. We really appreciate you giving us your time this afternoon. I'm going to hand over to Erin, who is going to announce what the theme of our next curriculum conversation is going to be.
Yeah, thank you very much, Brianne. So our next curriculum conversation is going to be science, and save the date, it's going to be on the 8th of September at 4 p.m, so another Monday. So we hope to see many of you there.
Wonderful. Thank you, Erin. Once again, thank you to our speakers, and we will see you all next time for our science curriculum conversation. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Bree.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.